Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is the Drunkduck Quackcast. Hello. Baines and Tance are with me, as always.
Hello.
Hello.
Alright, then we have the intro music. Da 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 da.
Oh, that's our new theme song?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we paid like $80 million and got it from John Williamson or whatever his name is.
John Williamson.
Someone Williams, I don't know. Today on the Quackcast, we are talking about characters who are based on tropes and will always revert to those tropes versus characters that grow over the course of a story. And also the terrible instance of characters who grow, but then, and they're based on tropes initially, but then the writers just decide to wipe all that and have them revert to type, revert to those initial conditions, initial tropes. Wiping out all the goodwill the audience has built up with them, and all the the experience the audience has of learning about their adventures and their relationships and everything like that. So that's a bad thing, but it's not bad to have your character based on tropes and always reverting to tropes, as long as that's established and they don't grow and then you wipe it out. Right. But we'll get deeper into that, blah, 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 blah. But first I've got to introduce the feature this week. Quackcast gave us a featured comic, and that was called Lorem Ipsum. So, Quai, tell us about Lorem Ipsum.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Lorem Ipsum by Baker Tunes, and it is rated E for everyone. Meet Lorem Ipsum, comical used book salesperson and eccentric librarian extraordinaire, always seen writing semi-biographical fics on a traditional manual typewriter. Accompanying Lauren on her daily adventures is a friendly and chill fox named Dewey, who sometimes needs a haircut. Follow Lauren and Dewey as they stealthily return overdue library books, play the bongos for eggs and tamago, and learn how to love themselves. The art is drawn in traditional black and white 3 to 4 panel comic strips, with double-decker Sunday comic strips in full color. Gorgeous hand-lettered font. Discover original villain, Evil McBad Guy, and read Lorem Ipsum by Baker Tunes, rated E.
And that was Quackcast talking about Lorem Ipsum. Thank you very much for that, Quai. You're a great featurer. Alright, so next up we have our featured music. Gummalls has given us a theme to Beg, which is an interesting comic. The music I would describe as a platforming pixels in the deep, dark, scream-haunted depths of a magical video game dungeon where only the bravest are able to carefully creep. So, take it away, Gummalls, with your theme to Beg. That was Gummallis' theme to Beg by Betty T. Horse. Well, Gummallis does the music, Betty T. Horse does the comic, rated M, and it's a horror one, so beware, it's like really dark horror. dark horror featuring Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach and also Bowser. And I don't know what other characters. Maybe that mushroom fellow. I haven't seen him in it, but he's probably in it. What's his name? Does anyone know? The mushroom guy from...
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh, who knows? But anyway, I'm sure the creator of the comic knows, because Betty T. Horse, because they have brilliantly adapted the world of Luigi and Mario to this horror Saw kind of thing. All right, so we're talking about characters who are sort of based on tropes versus characters who grow, but also characters who are based on tropes initially and grow, and also characters who are based on tropes initially and grow, and then get their growth wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that. Right. Well, okay, so one thing I'll start off saying is a big difference between American sitcoms and sometimes dramas and things like that. American things in general, American entertainment things versus British ones is a lot of the time the British ones are based on characters are based on like tropes or initial conditions, and they always revert back to those. And this is something that it's weird. Like, I've noticed this over years and years and years of watching and listening to, you know, radio dramas and stuff like that from things made in Britain versus ones in America, and especially in sitcoms because it's really crystallized there. These characters are really based on a set of tropes that they always go back to. You know, like, okay, so this character's the nerd, this character's the, you know, the macho, heroic type, this character is the lazy stoner. And in British sitcoms and a lot of British things in general, those characters will always revert to those initial things because that's them.
Mm.
Whereas versus in American stuff, like I'm talking about this as if there's only British and American things that exist, but you know, of course not. These are just like examples that are very clear to me. But in American things, the characters tend to start off that way, but then they'll change, and their interactions with other characters and their adventures, all this kind of stuff everything will influence and change them. And both of those ways of doing stuff are quite valid. Like, one way isn't really superior. You know, there's benefits and disadvantages to both approaches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in one way, it's like in the growth way, you're rewarding the audience more because they experience as the character changes, and it can become more interesting, and they can become more attached to the characters because, you know, they're rewarded. What they've seen is rewarded through how this character grows, because I saw that character have this relationship, I saw them have this adventure, and that character has become more scarred because of it. The character has memories, and it changes the way they react to certain things, and that makes the whole thing more involved, and it becomes more interesting to me. Versus the other way of having the character always revert to type means it doesn't matter which episode of the thing you see, you can always feel the same way about the character. The initial things, the initial kind of like feelings you had when you first got involved in it will never really alter. You can always go back to that and always sort of feel the same way about the thing because the character's always the same, the setup's always the same. So it can be very comfortable that way with that more British approach. And so obvious examples of this is, say, the American Office versus the original British Office. You know, the obvious difference between them is the British Office is way more realistic and way more cringy, and it's very hard to watch, but also a lot deeper and a lot better than the American Office in some ways. But their characters all revert to types. They never grow. They grow a tiny little fraction over the course of that whole, 3 seasons, that The Office had, maybe 2.5 seasons, and specials. They grow a tiny fraction because they're not allowed to grow any more than that. That's just because of how British stuff is. Versus the American Office, which lasted for a gazillion seasons, but even after the first season, those characters grew so much more. Even after the first episode, when they were still copying the British one, like almost, word for word, they grew massively because that's just the difference. And my theory behind this difference between American and British things is like British entertainment projects are very centralized because the BBC is a massive kind of government-run entertainment creation hub that's been going, for 100 years or so, and everything kind of passes through there, and all the other they have more kind of creation things now, more kind of studios and stuff, and they have had for years, but they're still kind of subsidiary to that main BBC kind of like institution, and everyone is kind of emulating it and wants to copy it because it is the sun, that they all suck in energy from. That's where all the money comes from, and all the actors and all the writers and producers, they sort of want to go through there, or at least emulate someone who's been through there. So I think that's why it's so influential. Anyway, sorry.
I would also say, first of all, it works really well if you are doing like a very episodic series, especially for kids shows where you need episodes that eventually revert the characters to initial specifications, let's say, and so that they can start another adventure with the same formula in the next episode and so on. So that works really well. And also, if you have something like 5, 6, 7, 8 writers that come in and out and are assigned different episodes, and they all have to work in tandem and all of that. If you have characters that are pretty much standard and they don't develop, then everyone can write according to a specific formula, and the output is very streamlined, if you like. So that can work very well for a production of something that takes a lot of people that don't necessarily need to all meet and agree on a vision.
That's interesting, Tance. Now, just when you've said that, so you've said that, like, okay, with they've got lots of different writers, but these writers don't all work together, and that is a good factor, because traditionally these British shows would have one writer or two writers working together, and then maybe for another episode they'll have another two writers. Whereas, say, the American shows, they have a whole table full of writers working together, and one of two of them might leave, and you have one or two new guys coming in, but it's always this big group, and there's always be people in common through. Whereas versus the British one, like one or two, but then you'll have different writers, but there's only those single people working on it at a time. So that's interesting. That would be a factor behind it as well.
Yeah.
But you sorry, go.
No, you go.
You mentioned kids shows, whereas that is something in American stuff where it's more likely to revert to type, where it's more likely to have tropey kind of things. Cartoons.
And okay, so this is going to be like a shot at the trilogy of Star Wars, like the most recent one. But see what happens when writers don't agree on how people develop in a series, on how characters develop. Like if you don't have agreement, developing characters can be I'm trying to find a word that is not a swear word right now.
Yes, because we're on the cast now.
Yeah. So that can be very, very hard, unless, and I have literally never seen that done like in a series, only in books and only in Greek books where, that we have gone through periods where really famous authors were feeling playful. So the premise of the book or the story was exactly that nobody has agreed on anything. It's like a round robin, and everyone writes a chapter and they develop it however they like. And the only agreement is that it has to have cohesion with the previous chapters. But the way that you develop it is yours, no pre-agreement. Uh, but this premise has to be pre-agreed, and also the audience needs to know what they're getting into for this to be fun for everybody. I don't know if that makes sense. And I'm thinking there is this book in Greek called the Novel of the Four, because four authors, like huge, holy, like huge giants of Greek literature at the time, all collaborated in making this one story that they didn't know what nobody knew what it was about. It was just these four authors, and they took like 1/4 of the book, and they just tossed it. They tossed the dice or whatever, whoever went first, second, third, fourth, and then they wrote the book. And even the authors themselves had to read the book to see what the book was about.
Oh.
Yeah, and actually, I really love that book. It's awesome because the twists and turns it takes, and the main character changes every single time because each one was interested in different aspects of different characters in the cast. And it starts as a noir story, and then it becomes an adventure, and then it becomes a drama between a surprise like suspense drama, and then it wraps up as a whodunit. So
Wow.
excellent. But first you need people that have tons of talent that they don't know what to do with. 2, it has to be pre-agreed, and 3, everyone needs to be in on the joke. Otherwise people get pissed. See Disney Star Wars.
Yes. And you don't want to betray your audience by not filling them in, not by leaving them in the cold in some way. That's an important factor, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
That's so that was okay. So this whole thing was came into my mind, this idea of character tropes and character versus character development, because I watched all of White Collar, which is this American TV series about, oh my god, I know how to describe this again. Okay, so it's an American TV series about an FBI agency called White Collar that handles white collar crimes. This guy is imprisoned for doing con artist work and white collar crimes, and he's taken out of jail. His sentence is commuted because he's going to be a CI, which is a criminal investigator or something like that. Who he helps the this FBI team solve crimes and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the premise, and this show goes on for 6 or 7 seasons. And over the course of that time, this guy, he becomes more and more friendly, and he sort of changes and grows over the course of that, and he becomes less wanting to be a criminal and more like for just wanting to be a friend and of the FBI people and the team. He likes working with the team, and he becomes he wants to be a good guy, and he wants to help put criminals away, and he sort of gets a thrill out of doing that more than he had done from just doing his stupid cons and things. But in the last episode, he fakes his death, and the last episode of the whole thing, after like 6 or 7 seasons, fakes his death in order to become a con man again. So it just like wipes out all that growth, all that, like investiture that the audience had with him, and it's reverting to type. So the writers are going, yep, we're really happy people watch this and our character and our show, but yeah, we're just going to make him this con man again. And it's like, it's a bit of a betrayal, especially for a last episode of something that's like 6 or 7 seasons long. Like, that's shitty. So I can't even imagine like anything else that, like, to give an example, an analogy to better explain this.
Honestly, that's such a, like, I can see someone thinking like, oh wow, we brought it full circle. What a poetic ending.
Oh god, yes. Yeah, so like poetic endings that are circular, the really, really good ones will go like be more of a spiral, because you'll go and you'll show, yeah, so this is how we started, this is how we finished. Isn't this poetic? They're sort of similar, but they're not, because we've got this growth and we have this enrichment throughout the process. But yeah, a bad circular ending would just be, yeah, it's like it was in the start.
Yeah.
Nothing matters.
We're right back where we started, back to square one.
Yes.
Start watching the series again.
I mean, I could envision, since I've never seen this series, I'm just sort of imagining, but like I could imagine a version of that where the guy is like where they lead him back to his life of crime, like in a way that makes sense. Like that's who he is at his core, and he can't, or he's betrayed somehow by his new associates, and it leads him back to that for whatever reason. Or it could have been done. From your reaction, obviously they didn't do it in a way that you bought it, or that it
Well, I mean, they tried to do it that way, but that weighed up against the weight of 6 seasons. It wasn't enough to make that believable.
They would need like a whole season of this, of leading to this, in a way, to sell it.
I mean, I don't think they should have done it anyway. Even justifying it in a way, even they should have even approached it. Just go with the good they've created, and keep up with it rather than doing that kind of thing. Like, just respect the investment that the audience has put into character growth. It's a thing. It makes it rewards the audience for their investiture, and it makes the whole thing like a worthwhile experience. Because so this is like a long running thing for me. Like, I hate it when people think that stories are just about conflict, because growth and change is another huge part of a story that drives a story just as much as how people think conflict does. And when you wipe out that, it's like you're destroying like a very interesting piece of, a very interesting mechanic that drives the story. You can't, getting rid of that growth is like, okay, it's like saying this, they're doing the same kind of thing with conflict. It's like saying, this character is now suddenly friends. We use Deus Ex Machina to like resolve the conflict straight away. It's the same kind of thing as that. Same sort of betrayal, same kind of hollow feeling you get.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And you just don't buy it as an audience member. Right. That's a good point, yeah. Like, your emotional investment sort of feels like, oh, I wasted my time. I wasted my investment.
Exactly.
And it's a a downer, you know? It's like, oh, like not every character will change, and some characters will fall back, you know, but to have that, to have your main character do that, you know, you're doing a very specific thing. So if you're doing it without knowing what you're doing, then it can be tough.
It's
a huge downer for the audience.
Yeah, like I think that kind of growth factor is, and change, and the way it's not respected is a good reason why a lot of bad sequels fail, because it's like, okay, what happened in the first thing is just wiped out and we're starting over.
Yeah.
Or it's a good reason why the Star Wars sequels with the, you know, the Rey character and all that, why they didn't work. Because,
well, I was trying not to mention, I was resisting. I didn't want to be all about that again, so I'm glad you bring it up. Like, a lot of complaints about Force Awakens was Han Solo, who just reverted to his first scene that we saw him in the original movie. You know,
exactly.
Everything was a waste. They gave a justification for it. He kind of went back to, you know, his marriage broke up, and he went back to where he was comfortable. So he literally reverted to type.
Every character did, in a way, or at least they.
Yeah, except well,
they didn't respect growth in any aspect or any variation of that description, because say what's his Luke Skywalker, like we've got like all kinds of weird unseen changes that happen to him that okay, what the hell?
Still makes me sad. But, it's reflected in the whole world of the sequels, you know, like everything. That whole original trilogy is just erased. Like, it didn't matter because now we're rebels again. It's another empire. It's like the same. Like, oh man, that's such a drag. Such a huge drag.
It's not respecting audience investiture and character growth, which is like, that's I've never thought of things in this way before, but yeah, that's a good reason why that's bad.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. So, but yeah, that's say this isn't like a new thing though. Like, it's in sequels generally, that is always an issue. Bad sequels will always have this. Like, good sequels, like the original Star Wars trilogy, are good sequels because they don't have that wiping out of stuff. Say the Indiana Jones movies are good sequels because even though they don't necessarily respect character growth from one thing to another, they don't wipe out stuff.
Yeah.
In between the things. Even, like, I haven't seen the Dial of Destiny, but even say the what's the one people don't like, the space alien one?
Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull. Yeah, even that doesn't wipe out stuff it's done before. Like,
yeah, they're more episodic in a way, I guess.
The one that I really don't like in that, not the Indiana Jones, is Jurassic Park, where the couple, like in the first, I never remember their names, but the initial couple in the first Jurassic Park, that we are left with this idea that they are getting together and stuff like that. They just are not together.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, and then they re-get together at some point. Like, come on, guys.
Oh, do they? Like in the newer ones, they get them together again?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen them.
See, now Jurassic Park is a film to me where there's no point for sequels. Like, the first one is the only one that matters. Why would I ever see another Jurassic Park film? It's okay.
More dinosaurs. Bigger and better Sorry, the dog threw her chew toy.
Your dinosaurs are attacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Sequels are tough. I just rewatched the movie Parenthood recently, which I loved when I was younger, much younger, many years ago, and I watched it again, and it was some kind of anniversary, I think, or it was in the last couple of years. And the writers, these sort of really well-regarded writers, screenwriters, wrote that movie, and they talked about sequels and how they. I think they also wrote City Slickers, and they're like, that's the only time we wrote a sequel. We were kind of pressured into it. We really don't like it, and I think it was kind of for the reasons you're talking about. It's like when it's done, then you're trying to do a sequel and reopen the same can of worms kind of thing, and trying to, open up new problems and erasing everything that happened. And Ron Howard, who directed Parenthood, said that's his only movie that he would want to do a sequel to. He doesn't like sequels either, but he loves Parenthood, and he would love to do a sequel. And it was those writers who would talk him out of it.
Oh, yeah, because they had the
so
bad
much
experience
in
with
that
City
movie,
Slickers.
you don't want to open it up again. Sorry, what?
They had the bad experience with City Slickers.
Well, I think just the idea of sequels they don't like, and maybe with City Slickers they were forced into it. So it wasn't that turned them off. They already didn't want sequels for I think some of the reasons that you're saying, and so that was the one time that they were they agreed to do it. I guess I'd always rather not. I agree. You see, like The Matrix, so crazy how many sequels they made to that. But I've never seen any of the sequels. It seemed like there's no point.
The
Aren't there
sequels just don't exist really.
Aren't there
Yeah.
only 2 sequels to The Matrix, and they've also got the cartoons? I think.
No, there are like 3. I think there are 3 sequels now or something. Yeah, there's a lot. I've never seen any of them.
There are. I think first of all, it's a trilogy supposedly, but the other 2 don't exist really. And then there's the cartoon. The cartoon isn't that bad. It explores the world, I guess, a little more. But yeah, it was a great standalone, and like they didn't need any sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, like Jurassic Park, you only need one for those things. You don't need extra. It's irrelevant. I mean, the world of the Matrix really isn't that interesting. It's fine for the thing that happens, and you could go with the Matrix. You really shouldn't show what happens after the movie. You should show what happened as well in that world. That would be more interesting. Like taking us into, like it actually would be fascinating. People diving into the real world and then going back into the underground world or whatever. That would be fascinating, and dealing with the Agent Smiths, just the normal Agent Smiths.
Sure.
That would be cool, but having progression, and that is, see, this is an example of where growth and progression for a world is a negative, because you've already got a completed, perfectly formed world or perfectly formed story, and now you're saying no, it wasn't perfectly formed. It wasn't all, from here to there. We've actually got, extra bits to resolve, and that kind of betrays the audience in a way. It means, the resolution you thought had happened isn't the perfect resolution.
Yeah, often. I mean, sometimes there's more story to tell in a legitimate way, right? There's plenty of times where it's like, yeah, there's more to do with this character or with this world. Like, if it's legitimately there's more to do and more to say, that's one thing. It's like, oh, this made money, so we have to do more. That's a different thing,
We'll say like, okay, Tron. Tron is a weird film if you ever go back and watch the original Tron. It's very weird, very strange. As a kid, I loved it, but as an adult, it's just okay. This is weird. And then there's the sequel, which was made in it was released in 2010, decades after the original was done, and that takes things in a totally different direction, and it's hated by a lot of people. I don't know why, because it's not bad, but where it fails is it does undo stuff that happened in the original movie,
Right.
and because it's totally different from the original movie. It doesn't have any of the actors until it does. And if they had just avoided having those original actors and betraying their storyline, then it would have been great. But because they had the original, Tron character and, played by this weird CGI version of Jeff Bridges, if they hadn't have done that, it would have been cool. So yeah, sometimes I don't know what I'm saying there, but the original film, it did not really have more story to tell, but the sequel was worthwhile in that it was showing a different aspect of this world and an updated aspect of this world in a totally different, really interesting way. But in trying to have a connection to the original, that's what made it fail.
Okay.
Have you guys? You probably haven't seen it, have you?
I haven't seen any of them. I've never saw the original or the sequel.
Really? Oh my god, we need to do a Quackcast where we watch Tron.
I haven't seen it either. I mean, I must have years ago, and it's completely deleted from memory. Excuse the dogs. I just haven't. I haven't seen them all day, and I couldn't deny them to visit a little bit. So yeah.
Looks like they really want to visit you as well. They're really carried away. But yeah, okay, we've got to all watch Tron because I want to see your reactions to the original and the new version, and seeing if you will hate it or whatever. Because this is cool, and it'll be very easy to watch the original because I'm sure that's everywhere. I can't wait. We'll have the Tron cast. Yes. I've already done artwork for that. Yeah, we'll watch the original and the sequel at a different cast because I want to see your reaction to it versus the original.
Okay.
They're both really cool.
Okay,
that'd
then.
be gorgeous. All right, so what are we talking about? Characters who revert to type and tropey things, and versus betraying audience investiture. Okay, Tance, you mentioned Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, the blonde-haired queen of dragons.
Yeah, basically white, completely white. Yeah, I don't think that she falls within this category in the sense that she doesn't return to trope, like she doesn't revert to whatever she was originally. She just transforms into what she was, what the authors wanted her to transform into. Like, there was no real development of the character into what she becomes, which is like a crazy Hitler type dictator that needs to be assassinated by the good guys or whatever. Whereas throughout the 7 seasons, whatever, she was the liberator, the mother of the oppressed, the one that had compassion for people that were, the underdogs and stuff. Okay, so she had sorry, that is the big dog eating his dog too. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, here he is. And
naughty boy.
yeah, and so she has this, cruel side to her, in the sense that she has no mercy for those that have been cruel to other people. She deals cruelty to cruel people, but that is not enough to warrant her suddenly becoming cruel to the people that she has spent pretty much all her life to protect. And she has
Yeah.
never been cruel to those types of people. So, uh, so that's just bad writing. It's not revert to core.
But it's in a way because it's betraying audience investiture in this character. They're not reverting her to her like a core, but they are sort of reverting her to another core, regardless of, how the audience has grown with the character and like lived through them and experienced all those adventures and interactions the character has. That means nothing. Like, screw you, audience. We're making this change regardless of whatever you feel and whatever.
As a matter of fact, a good fake out of reverting to the trope is in the last Airbender, in the final season, where Zuko has developed from this, basically a tool of the Empire, and then he has been like very much like someone who is the enemy of the main characters and stuff like that. So he develops over time, and he becomes their, like, not exactly their friend, but almost their friend. He sees their point. He becomes more compassionate, blah blah blah, and then there comes this point where he suddenly reverts to being this a-hole who goes after them again. But there is a very specific reason why. It lasts very, very little. And because he reverts, like he's basically, he has a very specific motivation. He wants the approval of his father, and he suddenly offered it. So he cannot really resist that. And he goes and he does what he's asked, basically. And he gets the reward of being approved of officially. But because he has developed, this approval is not good enough anymore. And he cannot rest. He cannot be happy with what he has done and how he has done it. So then he develops out of this, like he basically resolves this need, this thirst for his father's approval in the best of ways, just because he does give in to it at this point. So that was an excellent revert, quote unquote, revert to trope, because it wasn't a reversal. It was the most crucial point in this character's development, but it was such a, and of course it was in the second season, it was the last episode of the second season, and everyone was like so disappointed and so pissed off. But the reward in the third season is amazing, and it's totally worth it. So
Nice.
Yeah, they're using that expectation as a tool. So using your growth and your investiture as a very real tool, and that's really good writing. They're taking advantage of the tools they've created rather than tossing them into the bin, which is really, really clever. So good on them for doing that. Excellent. This is something we should, like, as writers, as creators, we really need to be aware of this stuff, because we do develop a relationship with our audience, with what we've done.
Yep.
And we can really betray them if we do things badly. So Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, thinking about this as an audience member is one thing, of course, and then you think about your own comics, your own writing, and stuff like that. And I mean, at least I think like, oh, easily like a character could go off the rails or do something that people are like, oh, I love that person. Now I can't stand them. You're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah. Like, say if you decided to have Oscar from Typical Strange turn into like a sex pest. You'd go,
Right.
oh my god, what the hell? Bates? No.
Yeah.
We'd have this whole like what is it, the what was that thing? The Me Too. Yeah, the Me Too movement in Australia.
Right.
And all these characters coming forward, Polly and
Oh
not
no,
Polly,
yeah, that would be such a a
Harley
distraction,
and
yeah, of the character.
Yeah.
and we go, oh, tearing out Baines, you bastard. That would be the good way to like stick it up to the audience, wouldn't it? Like, if you didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm
Like,
glad
and
you
you
brought
think
this
about-
up. I'm going to scrap the pages I was working on there. Yeah.
we all thought it would be TK, but
Yeah, exactly.
Or-
Subverting. Always subverting.
or it would be like having suddenly Basil appear again, but as an SS officer, like he faked his death so that he could join this.
Now he's your greatest enemy. Exactly.
Oh my god! Oh my! Oh, that
if you have Kathleen Kennedy writing your thing or in charge of it, that will happen definitely.
yeah, definitely. And then Martha would have to like snipe him, and
Right.
yeah. Oh my
that the best days for yes. All the audience will be happy initially because Basil's back, yay! It was no,
And then he puts on the hat like the Tottenham. Oh my god, I would hate like if I ever did that, that would be my sign that I have been kidnapped and someone needs to send help and to free me.
Okay.
Like that's my sign.
Good to know. Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even think what I do in Pinky TA to do that kind of patrol because I'm not that good a writer, so I've probably already done it a million times so far. So I could preach all this stuff about bad writing, good writing, blah 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 blah, but yeah, I can't really practice it.
I mean, there's a...
What's that?
Go ahead, Tans.
I said that's not true. Like, what would make Pinky be not Pinky and make us worried about you?
Yeah, see, there's nothing because she's already done everything.
She would. No. She would be completely compliant with the Empire, and she would just absolutely fall in line with Sissy, and
Oh yeah.
she would also just cover up her bum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That'd be
Oh,
a
yeah,
betrayal of everyone's investment. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just like the
Like
bottomless
this
waitress
current.
gals, they start wearing skirts and pants. It's like, what? What is this?
Exactly this current page of Bottomless Waitress. So Bottomless Waitress has had an update where I did like a one-off thing, and there's it's a joke on the whole bottomlessness. So they're saying, oh, actually, Ava, it's Ava's diner. Ava, her original business plan was that it should be bottomless coffee, and the joke is, yeah, bottomless coffee, not bottomless waitresses. Haha, you've been doing it wrong the whole time. And if that went forward, we could like betray everything and say, okay, it was bottomless coffee. So from now on, we're all wearing pants. We're wearing like trousers in every single the bottomless waitress, and it would just be about a cafe where people can have as much coffee as they like.
And wonderful panels of baggy cargo pants on everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, magnificent, magnificent. Yeah, that would be a total betrayal of everything bottomless.
That's how
That
we'll
would just
defeat
be-
sexism. We have
Yes.
and start scolding our former audience, whatever readership. Start telling them
Exactly.
how horrible they are. Yeah. Good point.
Oh, yeah, yes. Well, every single page will have like a paragraph about that. Oh, you pervert! You want us to go back to that? Oh, you unreconstructed chauvinist pig! How could you? Like the criticism of people who loved the old Shearer when the new Shearer came out. People saying, "Oh, you expect this to be a sexy girl? Oh no, she's like 13 or something." Oh, they had some kind of spurious argument about this
Right.
Yeah.
age for the character.
I advocate though, if you ever do any extras on the bottomless waitress thing, that the cook also be bottomless, and
Oh my god!
and the janitor as well, and like everyone is bottomless. And
Equal
Ew!
opportunity. That's fair.
why like imagine like this giant dude, like this very stereotypical diner cook, with this with the full apron. We don't want anything to get scorched.
Exactly.
So yeah, the cook should be completely bottomless behind that huge apron, and so the janitor as well,
Oh
and
god!
any I don't know who else, like what other kind of stuff the diner would
We
have,
got
but
Craig.
Like the
So
bus boy.
is he staff though? I mean, if he
yeah,
is staff, yeah, he has to be bottomless.
and the patrons. Everyone is bottomless. Oh my god!
That could be like a rule. If you want to have coffee, you have to be bottomless. Like it's like the bottomless pit.
Oh, oh Jesus! Yeah, that would be the dark horror version. So, like, if we went into a multiverse, that would be the multiverse of madness for the bottomless waitress.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or
Everyone
just the
bottomless
audience is
except
bottomless. Like the staff. The staff is fully dressed, but you have to take your
yes.
pants off when you come in.
Oh wow, yeah.
How strange.
That could be another one. Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. That's weird. Okay, we'll have to have fan submission for this kind of thing because I don't know if we're ever gonna write that.
Well, they will always revert to the trope. So
Yes.
Oh, I don't know because bottomless waitress is like Baines has structured it in a way that things grow and people change. So
You maybe in the BBC kind of way where it's just you really see it at the end, possibly, but we'll find out.
yeah,
I actually had a
everyone.
more rigidly structured idea at first, and to get these new pages going, I had to let go of those preconceptions. The
Oh,
way I
good.
wanted to do it, I had to sort of loosen my mental reins on that, which is good, I think.
Baines
It
and
is.
him.
Well, yeah. The characters. It would be interesting to have them grow so much that they they don't even work there anymore.
Yeah, we might go there, but that would be the end of the series, I think, at least for the main three, unless we have contract disputes and
Yeah, well.
Polly goes off and has her own spin-off, ill-fated spin-off show, and we have bring in a new look-like. Maybe we could do that. Luckily, comics don't usually run into that issue.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Sometimes they do,
The
actually.
yeah, they actually do.
It's more rare than on TV, but yeah.
With commercial comics mostly though, because how else did we get like Harley Quinn, and she has her own series. and like the different versions of Robin, and they Nightwing, and they really
Well,
do paint.
I
They
mean, you bring
really
up commercial comics and think of like how some of them run for decades. Like that's another factor because, like, as far as characters who revert to type and can be kind of all over the place, you have a medium like comics, long runners, where it's different writers, right? It's often different writers coming in. Even on TV
Yeah.
shows, like where there's different writers, there's often a showrunner who's consistent, at least for a few years. So yeah, that when you have a comic who has a completely different creative team, possibly very often, you get some
And they just
interesting stuff.
decide, okay, like who is that guy? Like Batman had become very like so in the 1960s or 70s, no 60s, I think it was. Yeah, so Batman was very much driven by the popularity of the TV show. So he became very camp, and plus, what was it like? In that era, comics had also, with the Comics Code Authority, had become a lot less serious and more wacky. And so Batman had changed into a much more like wacky, kind of gentle character in a lot of ways. And by the time like the 70s rolled around, and then the 80s, especially the 80s, Batman had reverted way back to how he was in how he was in the 50s and the 40s, and he was a much darker character.
Great example. It's a Frank Miller coming in with his darker take than Batman, more true to the original version. Yeah, man.
Exactly. These writers sort of just choose which era they want to revert back to from what the character's done. Although it's rare that Batman has reverted back to being camp. I don't know if he ever has.
It's more like all the other series are going to that dark Batman. Trying to capture that, no matter if it fits the character or not. That's the other thing too. You talk about like
camp,
respecting the audience. There's a question of like, do you try to chase the audience or pander to the audience? That can be a recipe for disaster too. But that might be a whole other Quackcast.
Well, yeah, if you pander to what you think the audience wants,
or even to what they say they want. If you surveyed the audience and they told you what they wanted, and then you did all of that, good chance you'd have a disaster.
Yeah, so why would you have a disaster if you did that?
What because
creates the problem?
Because a super fan wants to see things that maybe most people don't care to see. There's so many traps. I don't know exactly what would happen. It depends on the property. It depends what was done. It depends what the fans said. Let's say a group of super fans might be really into specific details and digging into this or that. And it's like, well, most of your audience, they don't care about that specific thing. And you're not really capturing the essence that most people like. There's a lot of ways to go wrong, I guess.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We'll say with like Xena Warrior Princess. Okay, so this was a show that was based on the legendary tales of Hercules, or whatever, with Kevin Sorbo. So they started that. Hercules and Aeolus, I think, was the two characters, the partnership. And so Xena was something they did a long time later as a spin-off version of Hercules, but it was basically the same thing, just with female characters. So with Xena doing Hercules and Gabrielle being Aeolus. And so they had the same kind of buddy relationship that those characters had. And it went really well. It was really interesting with like, okay, so Xena being the tough, like, kind of guiding force, being able to educate this younger, more naive character who was Gabrielle, in sort of the ways of being a warrior and fighting and the world. And that was pretty cool. But then a lot of the audience was sort of thinking, oh, 2 female characters, one helping the other out, that means sex. That means they must love each other. I want to see them like do that. And so that's what the audience, a portion of the audience wanted. But for me, that felt like a betrayal of that setup, not a growth of the characters.
Yeah,
because
that's an excellent example. That's like exactly it. Yeah, Mulder and Scully on the X-Files, same thing. Apparently, the creators didn't want a romance, and because a loud segment of audience wanted it, they did it, and it sucked, in my opinion.
Yeah,
in Supernatural as well, I think there was. I won't go into that, but there was a loud fan base that wanted certain things, sexy things. So they kind of played into that a little bit near the end of the series. I think some of the actors resisted that, so it didn't go the whole way. But that's a whole other story. I won't go into that because people are, because I won't. But anyway.
Just because you won't.
Because I won't. I don't need. What am I doing? I'm calling the wrath of everyone down upon us. I don't want that.
The mad Supernatural fans. I tried to watch that show, but I just could not get into it. I don't know. People love it though, so I'll have to give it a go.
I liked it quite a bit, for the most part. Yeah, I mean it's ran really long, so the first few years I really liked, and I came back for the ending. The ending was pretty satisfying. So long stretch in between that I skipped. It got a little bit much, but
what made it hard for me was the obvious fact that they picked like real male model types for the main actors, and it's hard to get around the himbo-ness of them.
The himbo-ness.
It's funny. Like when you pick like really freaking super sexy, female actors for roles, you have to get around the fact that they just pick them because you're gonna have pique that specific audience interest, and it's like trying to see characterization in these people is a bit trickier. The same thing happened, the whole.
It might have helped with the longevity of that show in a way, but in another way, I think that also leads to the fandom, kind of some of the kookiness, probably.
Probably, yes.
Well, a mixed blessing, a mixed bag, one might say.
Yeah, something happened with this show that I mentioned, White Collar. So the main actor, Matt Broma, or Boomer, I don't know his name, but he was like the con artist guy in that. He was obviously picked because he was like a super handsome male himbo type, and it takes a long time to get over that and to mentally give him a character because he's so much of that pretty boy thing. So this is another subject, but
right.
Yeah, we are slipping into the new Quackcast here.
We are. Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap it up now that we're all together. Your little doggies are safe.
Sound as a pound? Yes.
Oh, little doggies aren't completely safe yet. Sound as a pound. I like that. Is that a Canadian thing, or you just made it up? Or is it a general?
Probably an English thing, I would imagine.
Oh, like sound as a pound.
Yeah, I probably heard it on Austin Powers.
Sound as a pound. Okay, all right. Let's wrap it up then. Thank you very much for being past. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for being part of Quackcast. Number 654. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.